If you think that, when war happens, you can still go to the store and buy what you need, then you may be wrong. The first thing to disappear is not gold. It is the food you did not prepare. In a situation of power outage, transportation disruption, or simply empty shelves, most of what you have in your refrigerator will become useless within just a few days. But there is a group of foods that still works when everything else stops. In this video, you will learn about 12 canned foods that can last for years, even decades, requiring no electricity, no cooking, and able to help you sustain your body in the most difficult situations. And there is one item at number 7. When you do not have it, you will realize it on the very first day. 12. Canned tuna. Canned tuna is one of those things that many people are so familiar with that they no longer value it. And that is exactly the problem. In normal life, you always have better options. Fresh meat, fresh fish, hot meals. But when the power goes out, the refrigerator stops working and food begins to spoil within 24 to 48 hours. Those options disappear faster than you think. Canned tuna can last from 2 to 5 years, even longer if stored properly. But its real value is not in that number. It lies in this. It is a protein source you can use immediately. No cooking, no preparation, no dependence on any system. Protein is not something you feel lacking right away. But after just 2 to 3 days without enough of it, the body begins to weaken. Focus declines. And even simple tasks become harder. And when you realize you are lacking protein, by then, you may no longer have the strength to fix it. A small can of fish will not make you full, but it might be what keeps you standing on the 3rd day. Few people notice that the soft bones in canned fish contain highly absorbable calcium, especially when the body is lacking nutrients or no longer has other sources. In many situations, this may be the only calcium source you have left. An average can of tuna can provide about 20 to 25 grams of protein, nearly equivalent to a complete meal. Some people store canned food in hot places like garages, near the stove, or inside a car. High temperatures do not ruin it immediately, but they shorten its shelf life day by day, until when you need it, it may no longer be safe. Another mistake is ignoring dented or rusted cans, which can become a risk that many people fail to check. Proper storage is simple. Keep it in a dry, cool place with stable temperature, away from direct sunlight. No equipment, no special conditions, just the right method. It is not that you do not have food. It is that you do not have what helps you hold on. When everything is still working, this is just a convenient meal. But when everything stops, you do not eat it because you want to. You eat it because you still have a chance. Protein keeps you alive. But the next thing is what you will notice on the very first day, and you will not be able to ignore it. 11. Canned chicken is not something that impresses you at first. It is not appealing, not special, and is often seen as a secondary option. But the things that are overlooked are often the ones that last when everything else disappears. Unlike fish, chicken has a softer structure and is easier to digest, making it suitable when the body is tired, low on energy, or no longer eating properly. And during the days when you are not eating enough, the digestive system becomes more sensitive. At that point, you do not need something tasty. You need something your body can still process. Canned chicken can be stored for 3 to 5 years. But what matters is not just the time, but how it is processed. Fully cooked, then sealed in an environment with almost no oxygen. That leaves bacteria with almost no chance to survive, and the nutritional value remains stable for many years. When you no longer have the ability to cook and do not have clean water to handle food, having a protein source that is ready to use is no longer about convenience. It is an advantage. A serving of canned chicken can provide about 15 to 20 grams of protein, enough to sustain the body during days when you have few options left. And when you start eating less, the body does not collapse immediately. It weakens gradually, slows down, and at some point, you realize you no longer have the strength to do even the simplest tasks. A can of chicken will not make you stronger, but it might be what keeps you from declining too fast. A common mistake many people make is choosing options with too much sodium or not checking the ingredients. In conditions where water is limited, high sodium does not cause immediate harm, but it quietly pushes the body into dehydration faster than you expect. Few people realize that canned chicken retains its protein almost intact, while many fresh foods lose their value within just a few days, if not stored properly. It is not that you do not have food, it is that you do not have what your body still accepts when it begins to weaken. It is not the meal you expect, but it is what you will need when your body starts to slow down. Protein keeps you from collapsing, but what comes next is what determines whether you still have enough energy to continue. 10. Canned beef. If fish and chicken help you sustain, then canned beef is what determines whether you have enough energy to keep going. Many people think that having protein is enough, but in reality, when you start eating less, sleeping less, and your body has to work harder than usual, what you lack is not just nutrition, it is energy. Canned beef can be stored for 5 to 10 years. But what makes it different is not the time, it is the composition. It does not just contain protein, it also contains fat, the most energy-dense source the body can use when everything starts to run short. Fat provides more than twice the energy compared to protein or carbohydrates, and that is why it becomes critical when you are eating less than usual. A serving of canned beef can provide about 200 to 300 kilocalories, along with 20 to 25 grams of protein. Under normal conditions, that number may not seem impressive, but when you no longer have many options, that could be all the energy you have for an entire day. And at that point, you are no longer eating to feel full. You are eating to keep going. And when the body begins to lack energy, you do not collapse immediately. You slow down, your reactions become weaker, and you start making mistakes that under normal conditions, you would never make. And at some point, you realize you are no longer alert enough to correct those mistakes. Canned beef does not make you better, but it keeps you from getting worse too quickly. Few people realize that canned beef is fully cooked and sealed in an environment with almost no oxygen. This not only extends shelf life, but also slows down decomposition, preserving nutritional value in a stable state for many years. A common mistake many people make is thinking canned food can be stored anywhere. High temperatures do not ruin it immediately, but they quietly reduce quality and nutritional value over time. When you open it, it may still be edible, but no longer enough to support your body the way you expect. Proper storage is still the simplest thing. Keep it in a dry, cool place, away from high temperatures and constant fluctuations. It is not that you do not have food, it is that you do not have enough energy to keep using it. Protein keeps you standing, but energy is what determines how far you can go. And if you think survival alone is enough, then what comes next is something you will feel within just a few hours, before you have time to adapt. 9. Canned beans. It is not always that you lack food. It is that you lack the feeling of fullness needed to keep thinking clearly. That is when canned beans begin to show their real value. In the first few days, you may still have food. But as portions shrink and you are no longer eating as much as before, the body does not just get tired, it starts to lose stability. You feel hungry faster, your mood shifts, your ability to focus declines. Canned beans can be stored for 3 to 5 years. But what matters is not the time. It is how they work in the body. They do not just provide plant-based protein. They also contain fiber, which slows digestion and keeps energy stable for hours. The fiber in beans can help you feel full for 3 to 4 hours, even when you are eating less than usual. Beans can become the most stable energy source when fresh food is no longer available. And when your body begins to fluctuate, you will realize you are no longer in control of yourself. And at that point, you are no longer eating to feel full. You are eating to keep your body from losing control. Unlike foods high in sugar or fast carbohydrates, beans do not cause a crash after a few hours. They keep you at a level where you can continue thinking, making decisions, and maintaining control of the situation. A can of beans does not change everything immediately, but it keeps you from falling into the cycle of hunger, fatigue, and mistakes. Few people realize that the combination of protein and fiber in beans helps stabilize blood sugar, something extremely important when you are no longer eating regularly as before. Many people think beans are a secondary food and do not need to be stored in large amounts. But in reality, when food sources decline, what keeps you full longer is exactly what you need most. Another mistake is not paying attention to sodium levels in canned beans. In conditions where water is limited, high sodium does not cause immediate harm, but it can push your body into dehydration before you even realize it. It is not that you do not have energy, it is that you do not have what makes it last long enough. Protein helps you stand. Energy helps you move. But stability is what keeps you from losing control. And if you think having enough to eat is enough, then what comes next is something you will notice on the very first day, when your body starts reacting slower, and you realize you no longer have the control you once had. 8. Canned vegetables. You can survive a few days without vegetables, but you will begin to feel the absence before you understand the reason. That is when your body is no longer lacking energy, but lacking smaller things that are more important than you think. Under normal conditions, fresh vegetables are always available. But when systems are disrupted, fresh food is the first to disappear, and also the hardest to replace. Canned vegetables can be stored for 3 to 8 years. But their real value is not in the time, it is in what they retain. Vitamins, minerals, the things your body does not need in large amounts, but cannot go without for long. You do not notice it immediately when they are missing. But after a few days, the body begins to react. Unexplained fatigue, slower thinking, and a lingering sense of exhaustion. And the dangerous part is, you will not know what you are lacking to fix it. And when you begin to think that you just need rest, in reality, your body is lacking something you cannot see. A serving of canned vegetables still retains most of its vitamin A, C, and essential minerals, even after long storage. And when you no longer have fresh vegetables for many days, this may be the only source of micronutrients you have left. And at that point, you are no longer eating to supplement. You are eating to keep your body from starting to decline. Unlike foods that provide energy, vegetables do not make you stronger immediately. But without them, everything starts to get worse in ways you do not notice until it is too late. A can of vegetables does not change the situation right away. but it keeps your body from gradually slipping day by day. Few people realize that the canning process preserves most minerals in a stable state. Even though some vitamins may slightly decrease over time, that is still far better than having nothing to replace them. A common mistake is ignoring canned vegetables because they seem unnecessary in the short term. But that mindset causes many people to only realize the problem when their body begins to decline noticeably if they do not pay attention to the sodium content in canned liquid. In conditions where water is limited, this can throw the body out of balance faster than you think. It is not that you do not have enough energy. It is that your body is missing what allows it to function properly. You can survive without vegetables for a few days, but if it lasts longer, you will no longer feel like yourself. And if you think having enough to eat is enough, then what comes next is something you will notice very quickly. When your body still has energy, but no longer wants to keep going. 7. Canned soup. There comes a point when you are no longer lacking food. You are lacking the ability to prepare it. You still have food, but you no longer have enough time, enough energy, or the right conditions to turn it into a complete meal. That is when canned soup begins to show its real value. Canned soup is not just food. It is a complete meal in a can. It contains protein, carbohydrates, and fat. Everything the body needs, already combined in a way that requires no extra thinking. Under normal conditions, you can cook. You can choose ingredients. You can wait. But when everything starts to become chaotic and you have to handle multiple things at once, cooking a meal becomes a burden. And at that point, you are no longer eating for full nutrition. You are eating to save what little energy you have left. A can of soup can provide around 150 to 300 kilocalories. Not much under normal conditions. But when you have no options left, it becomes a complete meal. And when you are already exhausted, not having to think can matter more than the amount of food itself. You may still have rice, meat, and many other things. But if you no longer have the strength to cook, all of it becomes meaningless. You may have enough food, but you no longer have the ability to turn it into a meal. And when you realize that, you are already in a situation where every small decision costs more than you think. Canned soup does not make you stronger. It does not help you store food longer. But it removes one entire step, a step that, in a stressful situation, could be what exhausts you faster. Few people realize that ready meals like this do not just provide nutrition, they also reduce the burden on the brain, which becomes just as exhausted as the body when you have to constantly make decisions. A common mistake is treating canned soup as a secondary food, not valuable enough to store. But in reality, when you no longer have the conditions to cook, this is what you will reach for first. Another mistake is stockpiling raw ingredients without having an immediate eating solution. And when the situation happens, you may have enough food, but no way to turn it into a meal. It is not that you do not have food, it is that you no longer have the ability to use it effectively. This is what you do not think about until you need a complete meal instantly. And if you think having enough energy is enough, then what comes next is something you will notice very quickly when your body still has strength, but your mind can no longer keep up. 6. Canned fruit can be stored for 1 to 3 years. A serving can provide vitamin C along with natural sugars, enough to maintain basic energy levels when you are no longer eating normally. One serving of canned fruit can provide about 10 to 20 grams of natural sugar, enough to maintain minimum energy in the short term. In conditions of power outages or supply disruptions, fresh vegetables and fruits are usually the first to disappear. After a few days without a replacement, the body begins to react clearly. prolonged fatigue, difficulty concentrating, and an unexplained sense of exhaustion. This is not a lack of energy, it is a lack of micronutrients. And when that happens, the issue is not how much you eat. It is that your body no longer responds the way it used to. And the most dangerous part is, you do not realize you are getting weaker. Canned fruit does not provide many calories, but it provides something most other foods do not: an easy-to-eat sweetness and vitamins that help the body maintain stability. The natural sugars in fruit can help the brain react faster in a fatigued state, something you will clearly feel after not eating enough for many hours. When your body begins to lose appetite, you will realize this is one of the few things you can still eat without forcing yourself. This is not dangerous immediately, but after a few days, as you begin to eat less and less, the body gradually loses the ability to return to normal. In reality, many people ignore fruit because they think it is not necessary. But small things like this are what keep you from falling into a cycle of prolonged meal skipping. You may be able to endure hunger, but it is much harder to endure a prolonged loss of appetite, because at that point, your body begins to reject what it actually needs. And when you start skipping meals, everything will move faster than you expect. And if you think having enough energy is enough, then what comes next is what you will need when every meal must be strong enough to replace an entire day, and you no longer have many chances to make mistakes. 5. Canned chili. A can of chili can provide about 300 to 500 kilocalories, along with protein, fat, and carbohydrates, enough to replace a complete meal when you no longer have many options. Under normal conditions, that number may not seem impressive. But when you are no longer eating multiple times a day, each meal must be strong enough to keep you going. This is no longer about feeling full. This is about how long you can last between meals. Chili is almost perfectly designed for that. Meat provides protein, beans provide fiber, and fat helps sustain energy for longer. And when you begin to reduce the number of meals, you will notice something very clearly. Lighter foods are no longer enough. And when you realize that, you have already been under eating for many hours. And at that point, you are no longer eating enough. You are eating to keep functioning. There is a detail many people overlook. The combination of fat and fiber in chili slows digestion, helping you stay full for 4 to 6 hours. Enough time to avoid thinking about the next meal immediately. This does not make a difference right away, but after several eating cycles, when you begin to feel tired, weaker, and reduce your eating frequency, it becomes what keeps you from declining too quickly. You do not need more meals. You need each meal to last longer. In reality, many people see chili as a side dish or too heavy to store. But that mindset causes them to overlook one of the few foods that can fully replace a complete meal when needed. And there is one point often overlooked: the sodium content in chili. It does not cause problems immediately, but in conditions where water is limited, it can cause your body to dehydrate faster, and by the time you notice, you are already significantly weaker. You do not fail because you lack food. You fail because each meal is not strong enough. Because when each meal does not last long enough, the gap between them will break you first. And if you think being able to eat is enough, then what comes next is what you will need when you no longer have the strength to maintain your eating rhythm. And each gap begins to stretch longer than you can control. 4. Water/electrolytes. You can go without food for a few days, but you cannot do the same with water. And the problem is not that you feel thirsty, it is that your body begins to break down before you even realize it. Under normal conditions, You drink when you feel thirsty. But when you are more active, eating less, and your body starts to lose balance, the feeling of thirst is no longer reliable. You may already be dehydrated without knowing it. And when that happens, everything changes quickly. You become more tired, your thinking slows down, your reactions weaken. And the most dangerous part is, you do not think the problem is water. Just losing about 1 to 2% of your body's water is enough to reduce concentration and reaction ability. You do not collapse immediately. You just start making more mistakes. And in a stressful situation, those small mistakes will accumulate faster than you expect. Electrolytes are even more important. When you lose water, you do not just lose water. You lose sodium, potassium, and the elements that keep your body in balance. And when electrolytes are off, your body no longer functions the way it used to. You may still have energy, but feel weak. You may still have strength, but no longer be able to control your body. That is not a lack of food. That is your system falling out of balance. A bottle of water does not make you stronger, but it may be the only thing keeping that system from collapsing. A small electrolyte packet can bring you back to a normal state faster than any food. A common mistake is stockpiling food while forgetting that the body needs water to use all of it. And a bigger mistake is waiting until you feel thirsty to drink. When you feel thirsty, you are already one step behind. It is not that you lack energy. It is not that you lack food. You lack what allows the entire system to function properly. And when that system begins to fail, everything else follows. And if you think drinking water is enough, then what comes next is something you will notice very quickly. When your body is still functioning, but you can no longer maintain heat, no longer sleep, and no longer recover the way you used to. 3. Canned bacon. There comes a point when the problem is no longer what you have to eat, but whether you can eat it immediately. You still have food, but you no longer have the strength, time, or conditions to prepare it. That is when canned bacon begins to show its real value. No cooking, no water, no waiting. Just open it, and it is ready to use. Under normal conditions, you may see it as convenience. But when you are exhausted, sleep-deprived, and constantly handling multiple tasks at once, not having to prepare anything becomes a real advantage. And at that point, you are not eating because you want to. You are eating because you need something that works within seconds. Bacon provides fat and protein, two energy sources the body can use quickly when you are no longer eating enough as before. A few slices of bacon can provide enough fat for the body to maintain short-term energy, even when you do not have a full meal. But what matters is not the nutrition, it is the speed. And when you slow down, you start losing opportunities before you even realize it. And when you begin to slow down, everything around you will not wait, and you will realize you are already slower than you thought. A few slices of bacon are not a complete meal, but it is something you can use immediately when you no longer have the ability to take any additional steps. Few people realize that canned bacon is often preserved in its own fat, helping limit oxygen and extend shelf life without requiring complex conditions. This does not make a difference when everything is normal. But when you no longer have a stove, no longer have electricity, it becomes the difference between being able to eat and not being able to use what you have. Many people prioritize storing raw ingredients over ready-to-eat food, but when they no longer have the strength to cook, those items become harder to use than they expected. You do not stop because you lack food. You stop because you do not have something you can use immediately. And if you think having food is enough, then what comes next is what you will need when you have to measure every unit of energy, and you no longer have enough to waste even once. 2. Canned cheese/dairy. Not everything you store is meant just to help you survive. Some things exist so you still want to continue. Canned cheese or dairy products are not common. Not everyone thinks about them. But because of that, they become one of the most valuable things when situations last longer than you expect. In the first days, you may still be able to eat. But as time passes, as portions shrink, as the body becomes tired and the mind slows down, the issue is no longer whether you have enough food. It is whether you still want to eat. This is the point many people do not prepare for. You may have enough rice, enough meat, enough energy, but if you start to lose your appetite, you will eat less. And when you eat less, everything will decline faster than you think. Canned cheese or shelf-stable dairy provides fat, protein, and calcium, but its real value is not in nutrition. It lies in the feeling, the richness, the soft texture, the familiar taste. The things you do not notice under normal conditions become what allows you to keep eating when everything else becomes hard to swallow. A small portion may not change how much energy you have, but it can change whether you eat at all. And that is the biggest difference. Few people realize that under prolonged stress, the body and brain tend to reject foods that are too repetitive. And at that point, foods with clear flavor and easy texture become what keeps you from skipping meals. A common mistake is focusing only on nutritional survival while ignoring the psychological factor. But when you no longer want to eat, every storage plan begins to lose its value. You do not collapse because you lack food. You collapse because you stop using it. And that is when small, uncommon, and seemingly unnecessary items become what keeps you going. Not to survive, but to keep you willing to eat. And if you think it is enough for the body to keep functioning, then the final item is what determines whether you can maintain your rhythm. Not for a few hours, but for many days in a row. 1. Long-term canned meat. There is a limit where the issue is no longer what you eat, how much you eat, or how you eat. It becomes, do you have anything left to eat at all? That is when ordinary foods are no longer enough, and this is where long-term canned meat begins to show its true value. This type of food can last 20 to 30 years, not months, not a few years, decades. No electricity, no refrigeration, no dependence on any system that is still running or has already stopped. That is not just about time. It is about something else. The ability to exist when everything else has disappeared. Under normal conditions, you do not need it. You have better options, fresher options, more accessible ones. But in prolonged situations, when supply does not return, when everything you rely on is no longer stable, time becomes the deciding factor. And at that point, things that only last a few days, a few weeks, a few months, will gradually disappear from the game. A serving of long-term canned meat can still provide 20 to 25 grams of protein, retaining most of its nutritional value even after many years of storage. But the important point is not the number. It is this: you still have an option. And when you start running out of options, every decision becomes harder, slower, and riskier. Few people realize that these types of foods are often packaged in environments with almost no oxygen, with tightly controlled moisture. That is why they can outlast time without depending on external conditions. This does not make a difference when everything is stable. But when systems stop functioning, this is what is not pulled down with that collapse. You may lose electricity, you may lose access to water, You may lose access to new food, but this remains. And when you open it, you are not just eating. You are using something that time cannot take away. This does not help you live better. It helps you still have a choice when nothing else is left. You can see that the items on this list are not rare. They are very familiar and may even already be in your kitchen. But the difference is not how much you have. It is whether those things still work when you need them. You are not lacking food. You may only be lacking the things that do not disappear over time. The things that do not depend on electricity, water, or whether systems are still running. When everything is stable, you do not notice it. But when it stops, you will not have a second chance to get it wrong. You may have plenty of food, but if you cannot use it, it no longer has value. And that is the point many people only realize when it is already too late. Preparation is not about storing more. It is about choosing better. And sometimes, the difference between staying in control and having no options left comes down to a few very simple things you overlooked. Are you preparing? Or do you just think you are prepared?